Hi everyone, welcome back to Be Rich. Today we're going to talk about something which is close to Anand's heart and my heart, which is about my grandfather who's an auditor here in Chennai. Was an auditor in Chennai a long time ago. He passed away when I was just 4 years old. And Anand will always tell me stories about him and what all he used to share with him in his wisdom. And one of the things he talked about to Anand, which Anand remembers very fondly, is he'll always tell Anand, you cannot evade tax, but you're allowed to avoid tax. And there's a fine line of difference between avoiding and evading. I thought I'll pick Anand's brain on this and share with you guys this story and the meaning of this and why it is perfectly all right to avoid the tax, but you should never evade paying your tax because we're coming to tax season, guys.
Okay, and what I remember of him, I was very young myself. I was 12 when he died. 12 years and 5 months, and you were 4, 3.5 or 4. So you don't remember. I don't think you remember.
No, I don't remember. I have one memory. I don't even know it's a memory.
Yeah. So, but I knew him well because our parents
Yes,
left abroad.
thank you.
So our parents left abroad when I was 10 or 9.5.
Yes.
And so for 3.5 years I was living with him.
Yes.
But I was always very close to him. I was the apple of his eye.
Yes, that I agree.
I was his eldest grandson, and he used to pick me up from home, and bring it to his house. And I used to play half a day before. Our dad used to come, pick me up and take me back home.
Yes.
And then he finally convinced my father to build a house next door.
Correct.
So that the grandson could always be there.
Yes.
I remember that. So, and I was very close to him and to my other grandfather also. I was the apple of his eye also. So I had a great time with both.
Thankfully, I'm your apple.
Oh,
You don't have eyes, I'm just your apple.
yeah. Anyway, so the other man was a forest ranger. My English skills come from him.
True.
My ability to read comes from him and my father. But my knowledge of...
Not only ability to read, I say that you being a ferocious reader is
because of both of them.
Yes.
And the ability to analyze and size up a financial matter comes largely from him, though he never taught me finance. But there must be something I must have picked up from him very early. At least I would like to believe that I picked up.
I do agree on that. I think teachers play a big role on your career path, and your grandfather's fingerprints are all over you.
Yeah, they say that. But I have read all the documents he has prepared, and I have read a lot of his cases. So absolutely I knew what he was talking. But one thing he always told me, because I always used to be on his lap, and he told me once when somebody came to meet him that he wants to avoid tax. And he took and explained to me the difference between evading tax and avoiding tax. And those days taxes were at 95%.
Yes.
So tax avoidance was an art, and he was a master at it. So he explained to me the concept of lease, because most of his properties were on lease.
Yes.
And only after Manmohan Singh we converted into ownership.
Yes.
Because he taught me that if you lease a property, it is an expense.
Yes. You've told me this. Yes.
And if you are leasing, you are paying rent. So that is an expense.
Very true.
Whereas if I own a property, in those days you were paying both wealth tax and income tax on rent.
True.
So he was a big land shark today. In the heart of Raipeta, he had 4 acres of property.
Yes.
And he lived off land.
That's just one of his things.
One of his many properties. And in those days, in the socialist India, the man was very clever. He kept everything in property. And everything was in leased.
Yes.
In huge amount years, 99 plus years, so that the other person knew for all practical purposes it was sold.
Yes.
And he insisted on paying rent every year, and that was expense.
Yes.
And the money he had paid advance could be amortized over a period of long time.
Correct.
So in that way, he never paid wealth tax.
Yes. He avoided
wealth tax. He avoided Urban Land Ceiling Act.
Yes.
He avoided income tax, and he left all his children a lot of
substantial
amount of money.
Yes.
It was and When I grew older, my I had to look at the property papers to change the. When my father was dying, I had to look at the property papers. When I read those property papers, I went back and thought of what he taught me.
Yes.
It showed me his fingerprints were
All over.
all over the place.
Yes. I want you to share it with everyone. The story you told me. Remember the guy with who had the two slipper problem, importing it to India.
My grandfather, was the auditor of many great traders. This is before independence. He was the advisor to the great Alagappa Chettiar, and he played an important role in creating the Alagappa University. And therefore, till my grandfather died, every generation had 2 or 3 people who went to the Alagappa University. He had 2, 3 seats there. Unfortunately, we didn't get to go there because by the time
He had passed on.
he passed on. I was in 6th or 7th standard when he passed on. But had he lived, I do not know whether I would have done engineering at all. That is another thing altogether.
True.
Yeah. So the fingerprints would have been more stronger than.
It would have been more like a hand grip.
Hand would have been a grip, iron grip. And I wouldn't have thought that I should become like my father. My father told me this, that I should not become like him.
Yes.
And he told me when he came back, his father was also a very successful man. He was an editor of the Hindu.
Yes.
Those days they were called assistant editor, but he was the editor of Hindu.
Yes.
And very successful man.
Very successful.
And I have his certificate which says that he passed by the age of 16.
Yes.
He passed chartered accountancy by the age of 16. And it was mentioned that he has to complete the prescribed apprentice course.
Correct.
Before he could practice as an RA. There was no chartered accountants those days.
Yes.
And he wrote that exam in Bombay. But what was most important was what he told me, the story of two. I won't talk of who these guys were. They were really big guys.
Yes. That's not mentioned in the
name. No, it's not Alagappa Chettiar. So that's why I took his name. There was one big trading family's coin. There was a big ban in importing rubber goods to India during World War II because rubber was in short supply. And so this kid, I call him kid, he must have been 29, 28. And those days life expectancy was very low. So he must have been a very successful trader. He decided he bought in a big wholesale some huge number of Hawaii slippers, which were very popular in fashion those days. What Bata makes today out of rubber. This was in 1941. And he didn't know what to do. And
bringing it into India.
And he went to my grandfather. And my grandfather told him, well, what he gave a very simple solution. He said, split the right and the left slippers. The right slippers in one container, the left slippers in the other container. One container comes to Calcutta, the other container comes to Madras. It comes 15 days in difference.
And gap.
Because those days the British would auction those goods.
If nobody
claimed it, the goods would be auctioned.
And you could not bring it in. So it was being confiscated and auctioned.
And so they were only right slippers.
Which is pretty worthless.
And only he knew that
the
other slippers were coming. He had the information that the left leg slippers were coming on the other side.
True.
So he went to Calcutta. My grandfather went with him. They took it on auction and they shipped it all. And everybody thought this guy is an idiot.
Yes. For buying just one pair.
15 days later, there was another set here.
Correct.
Which he took it on auction. And believe me, those days phones were a luxury. It was private companies. It was all telegrams.
Yes.
So there was no connection between Madras and Calcutta. So nobody knew what was happening.
Till it was over.
It was all because the information asymmetry was great.
Correct.
This is before the internet era.
Yes.
So nobody knows what is coming in auction where. Yeah. So they got that information. They bought the slippers here.
The stock here, yeah.
And then they put it together and sold it for a big sum of money. But this was where an illegal transaction became a legal transaction.
Correct.
There's another famous story which he said, which he was responsible for, which they changed the law also. In 1940s, he bought in a first-hand machinery and showed it as second-hand textile machinery, and they had to pay because the second-hand machinery had lower taxes
taxation.
than the the older one.
Yes.
So the case came up, and they were charged for higher customs. So the accountant, he told the accountant, "You say this auditor asked me to do it." So then the auditor came. He explained the difference between what is used machinery and
Yes.
second-hand machinery.
Correct.
He explained a second-hand machinery is a machinery that has been invoiced twice.
Correct.
So in his case, what they had done successfully is the machine guy manufacturer had sold it to the agent.
The agent.
The agent was the owner of the property,
Yes.
and the agent sold that property to the
Yes.
mill owner.
Correct.
So it had changed two hands.
Two invoices were stamped on it.
There were two invoices stamped, taxes paid, and therefore it was a second-hand machinery.
Correct. It's got nothing to do with usage.
Used machinery. It was assumed that this was a used machinery.
Yes.
The law was changed and said used machinery after this case. These are two cases. There are plenty of income tax cases. So it is quite possible that you can use several loopholes in law to get taxes out. There are plenty of loopholes, especially in corporate taxation, which you can use to bring your taxes.
Correct.
And unfortunately, we have a regime which is extremely friendly to corporate taxes, and therefore you can even reduce the 25% tax to something like 9 or 8%.
Very true. That's why even famously Warren Buffett, even in the US, said he would love to pay more tax, but he would be a fool to pay.
Yes.
Because the laws are such that he can avoid paying it.
As a percentage of income, people below us pay more tax than us.
Correct.
It's true. It's very sad.
Thank you, guys. I hope you enjoyed this conversation with Anand regarding what the difference between evasion of tax and avoidance of taxes. Let us all try and avoid paying too much tax, but never evade paying your taxes. Please pay your taxes.
Don't evade.
Yeah.
Please avoid.
Yeah.
Thank you for watching. Be rich. If you like this content, hit the like button of this video and subscribe to my channel. Do not forget to turn on the bell notification. If you do not turn on the bell notification, you will not be notified every time we put out a video. Once again, I thank you for your support for Be Rich. It's a great privilege and honor that so many of you in thousands have subscribed to my channel and have supported me. I have written 2 books in English, The Alchemy of Money and Ordinary Stocks, Extraordinary Profits. These books are published by us and are ready. If you want to procure a copy, send us a message to the WhatsApp number given below and my team would respond to you. If you want an Amazon Kindle copy, you can click the link below. Finally, those who wish to consult with me can send a mail to berichenglish@gmail.com. Once again, I thank you for your support. If you like this video, press the subscribe button of my channel, hit the like button and turn on the bell notification.